Okay, so you just did an assignment about operations and the words that represent those operations. So we're going to take this a step further and go back and review expressions. Remember, an expression is just a group of math terms and operation symbols. So that could be 3 times x, 2 plus 9 times x minus 4, or just 3 plus 5. So one of the things I want to just refresh your memory about is when we talked about expressions before, we said that there were 3 different parts of an expression. It had to have numbers, and it had to have operations, and it could have variables. It could have all 3. It could have variables and operations. So it could have x plus y, and that's an expression. It could have 2x minus y. It could just be 3 plus 2. These are all expressions. This is what we would consider expressions right here. So as long as it has numbers and an operation, variables and an operation, or numbers, variables, and operations. So it could have all 3. It could just have 2, just like this. But it has to have an operation. It could just be 3x. And remember, this represents multiplication. So even though we don't see a multiplication sign, we know it's multiplication because they're right next to each other. So here you have a number and you have a variable, but you also have an operation. So this really would be considered having all 3, a number, a variable, and an operation, even though we don't see the operation sign. So going back to our vocabulary, a variable, remember, is just a letter that replaces an unknown number. So here you have your variable that replaces a number. We don't know what that number is. Remember, the other thing we talked about is you can't solve expressions without knowing what these variables represent. And y'all did an assignment before we let out for spring break for that, and so we'll get to that later. Today we are only worried about taking the clue words that we talked about yesterday and putting them into an expression, and how that looks. So we will be using variables. You will see coefficients again. Remember, that's just the number in front of the variable, and anytime there's a coefficient like this, that means multiplication right here. So that's exactly what that means. And then you have to have an operation. I'm going to add something to this because later it will be important, but exponents. So you have to have operations in expressions. That operation could look just like this, remember? It could look just like 5 times x, which is 5 times a number. So using the clue words from yesterday, we're also going to be talking about reversing the order. So when you see the word than or the word from, we're going to actually reverse the order, and I'm going to show you exactly what I'm talking about with that. So looking at these words, 18 less than a number. So that word than, when I go back to my clue words and I find the word than, that means reverse the order. And the word less means subtract. So now I'm going to reverse the order of that. So it's 18 less than a number. I don't know what the number is, so I'm going to use a variable to represent that. But I'm going to reverse them. So now where my variable was at the end of that sentence, it now goes to the front when I write it. So that now becomes a number minus 18. I reversed the order. I took the 18 and put it at the end, and I took a number, the variable, and put it at the beginning. Because 18 less than something means I'm taking 18 away from something. If it's going to be less than that, that means subtraction. So you're looking at the word less and looking at the word than. I don't know if I have any that use the word from, but we're going to kind of go through these and just look. A number decreased by 16. So I would come over to my clue words, find the word decrease. It is subtract. So I know I'm decreasing a number, my variable, by 16. This one's pretty simple. A number plus 12. So a number, meaning my variable, plus 12. Okay, a number multiplied by 12. So even though the 12 comes second, when I'm multiplying, I have to show my variable and my number as a coefficient. So the number comes before the variable. If you have it written like this, while that's in the correct order, algebraically, that's not how we want to write it. We want to write it, it's a lot cleaner with the number in front of the variable because we call that a coefficient. And so that is showing multiplication. So if you forget what I'm talking about, coefficient represents multiplication. And so that's how we write it. 6 increased by 12. Notice this one does not have any variables. It is just the number 6 increased by 12. Again, no variables. 2 times 8. Well, if I have two numbers that are being multiplied together, remember I no longer use an x to show multiplication because that x could be confused with a variable. That x looks like a variable, which also looks like a multiplication symbol, so we just don't use that anymore. Now I use parentheses to show multiplication right here. So that's 2 times 8. 6 more than, so here's that word than again, twice a number. So it's 6 more than, and the word than tells me to reverse the order. So that 6 more comes to the back. Then twice, let me see, the word twice here means times 2 is what that means. That means times 2. So twice a number. So that means I'm multiplying a number by 2. So this is how the coefficient and the variable should look. And it is 6 more than twice a number. So that word than means we're just flipping. We're just changing places in that order. 8 divided by twice a number. So again, the word twice means multiplying times 2. Division can be, I can use that backslash to show division. And then I'm taking 8 and dividing it by this. So whatever follows the word by is what you're going to actually be dividing by. So that's going to be your second expression right there. The sum, so sum, if I come back over here, find the word sum, it means add. The sum of 7 and x. So the sum of 7 plus x. The product, okay? A lot of people kind of forget what this word means, so make sure you come back over here to the clue words, and product is the first word for multiply. So I know I'm going to be multiplying 11 and a number. And again, make sure that number comes before your variable as the coefficient. And then the last one, the quotient. This is another word a lot of people forget. So I look for the word quotient. There it is. It's the first word for dividing. Quotient is just the answer to a division problem of x and 4. So they stay in the same order, And notice here I put them in fraction form just to show you a different way to write it. But writing a division problem with the backslash is perfectly fine too. So you can write a division problem either way. So makes no difference how you write that. So that's just kind of going back through and using our clue words to put together an actual expression. So that's kind of what you're going to be doing for your assignment. So this is what your assignment looks like. And what it is you are fixing the mistake. So you have been given a problem and you are looking at the student's work. So this is like if a teacher gave a student an assignment and the question was write an algebraic expression for the phrase 10 divided by x. Well, they have x divided by 10. Okay? So I need for you to rewrite it correctly down here. You can just type into the box. And then I want you to write what you think may have confused the student. Okay? Just do your best. Try to make complete sentences. It's okay if you don't. I will not count off for spelling. But if you put I don't know, I will count off for that. So I don't know is not an option or a question mark. There does have to be an explanation in this box. So you will do that with all three of these. This one is 3 less than x. Well, they have 3 minus x. So write it correctly in this box. Write what you think the student did wrong. So you are rewriting the expression in this box. And then this last one, the product of x and 20. So you have x divided by 20 is what the student wrote. So that understand that these answers right here are wrong. They are incorrect. They made a mistake. So you are fixing the mistake in these boxes and then writing what you think confused the student. And you can maybe write some advice. How could the student have gotten this right? What could they have done differently? So as long as you have something to help the student that got the question wrong in this box, you are fine. Just no question marks and no I don't knows. So if you have questions, feel free to email me. I will be posting all of these into Google Classroom in order to kind of help you and to give you some tools to use for you to do your homework. So this is your last and final assignment, and after that you are done. And just remember, these are due by 10 a.m. on Tuesday.